This is a video I've been looking very forward to making. I've been looking very forward to making this video, right? So this video, I believe I'm going to call it Darth Brodie's Rule of Two, right? Darth Brodie's Rule of Two. Exposing the truth behind toxic monogamy culture. And I'm going to explain this in a way that really breaks down a lot of this stuff, right? Because a lot of what people consider toxic in this day and age is just people's psychological reactance, their lack of knowledge and awareness, and their lack of understanding polarity. That's what a lot of it is. See, the reason why I embrace the moniker of toxic at times is because I understand that certain things that are truly feminine and submissive are within the banner of toxic because people want to be prematurely integrated, right? People have this fixation on being a full person in a relationship, not understanding that polarity is the foundation for anything that's sustainable. It's just like if you're, masculine dominant, it's like being a boss, right? Feminine submissive, that's being a follower, right? Masculine dominant is a leader. Feminine submissive is a follower. But what you have to understand is this: feminine dominant tends to be a scammer. Feminine dominant tends to be like a drug dealer or someone who has a lot of ups and downs and highs and lows, right? And it's something to where it's just like being a drug dealer, right? That's what feminine dominant is like. And being masculine submissive is like working a 9-to-5 job. We live in a day and age to where people want to be cooperative with one another instead of having polarity, not knowing what they're getting out of a situation. And then this is where toxic monogamy culture comes in, because people expect things that don't come out of the arrangement that they have. But it's not because these arrangements can't have these things. It's because their mindset, their intentions, their thought process when it comes to how they engage in these types of relationships will not lead to the things that they want out of it, right? So like, let's say a man says, I'll provide for you and I'll protect you and you provide me with pussy. When a man has that mentality, it's unrealistic for that woman to want to be sexually faithful to him over an extended period of time. It's unrealistic for that woman to not operate in a pragmatic, hypergamous nature. It's not pragmatic. It's not realistic for that man to be comfortable with being faithful to that woman and monogamous to that woman either. You're forcing yourself, trying to force a circle block, a circle peg into a square hole and getting upset when it doesn't fit. So I'm going to break down these different aspects of what people consider toxic monogamy culture. But before I even get into that, it's Darth Brodie's Rule of Two. I love Star Wars, right? And I've talked about this before. I love Star Wars. Now, when I break down Star Wars, I look at the Jedi and the Sith in these particular ways, right? I see the Sith somewhat like being feminine dominant, right? But not just feminine dominant, but I'm just going to say Sith is dominance, right? But it's emotion involved, but it's still dominant, right? And then you have the Jedi, which are masculine submissives or submissives, right? Now, how you go about being submissive or how you go about being dominant is, that's based off of your mindset. So one thing you might notice within Star Wars lore is that there can be an infinite amount of Jedi. There's no limited amount, right? But within there being no limited amount, there is also this: no attachment. Attachment leads to fear. The fear of loss, right? Attachment leads to the fear of loss, and fear of loss is the path to the dark side. Like, there's certain things that are viewed as wrong within the Jedi that aren't actually things that are inherently wrong, but the mindset that they take to it is in a way to where it will lead to someone going to some dark, bad places. I think about it a lot like the conversation that Yoda had with Anakin Skywalker, right? Where he said, that's what he said to him, and I don't remember the whole quote off the top of my head, but, attachment leads to the fear of loss, and the fear of loss is the path to the dark side. Don't worry about it. When somebody's emotionally invested, saying don't worry about it is not a realistic thing to say to someone. It's invalidating how they feel in a way to where you're not actually giving them any way of going about getting the things that they want. And this is part of what leads to different toxic aspects of polyamory culture, ethical non-monogamy culture, right? People deal with issues in all styles of relationships. There is no style of relationships that is 100% natural. And that's why I also look towards having conversations that revolve around monogamy as well as non-monogamy, as well as ambyamory, as well as V relationships, as well as different variety of relationships. I like the idea of primary partners, right? So that's the rule of two, right? So when we're looking at the Sith, there can only be two Sith at any given time. There can only be two Sith, right? There's the Sith Lord who holds power, then the Sith Lord that craves power. And I'm not looking at Darth Brodie's rule of two from the perspective of two people who are against one another, but there can only be two Sith at a time. Now, there can be other dark side users, right? And that would be people who get added into your relationship. But those are not Sith Lords. Those aren't the primary partners within the relationship. And there are benefits that come with being in a monogamous relationship that you don't always get those benefits when it comes to polyamory, right? Unless you're a true polyamorous. So one of those things is this. Most people who are polyamorous don't get the opportunity to be in love with someone and have that consistently over time in a way to where they get to mix sex and emotions and then know that they are preferred by their partner in a way that isn't just saying, I'm going to be with you because I love you forever, right? That's something that goes about. But, I'm going to get into this topic. Darth Bane's rule of two is a very fundamental aspect of Star Wars lore, and I think it's a beautiful thing to talk about when it comes to Star Wars lore. The dichotomies between the Sith and the Jedi, or between the light side and the dark side. And really what goes along with the dark side is the desire for power, the desire for control, the desire for expressing, having emotions. These are things that go along with it. So let me break down this whole topic of toxic monogamy culture, right? So what I mean when I say toxic monogamy culture, the normalization of jealousy as an indicator of love. Now, jealousy is a completely natural aspect of not only human nature, but animal nature in the animal kingdom. If a chimpanzee feels that you have given something to another chimpanzee that you didn't give to them, they're liable to rip your fucking face and your arms and your dick off. It's happened to multiple people. Jealousy is natural, but jealousy is something that is beneficial in the context of monogamy. So I'll explain what I mean, right? Jealousy is a motivator, but how are you using that jealousy? If I have a primary partner, I use jealousy on myself. If you feel yourself getting complacent, you can jump the gun, right? Jump the gun. You don't have to wait for an individual to act on betrayal for you to utilize jealousy. I can mindfuck myself, imagine that my partner is getting dominated and fucked in all kinds of ways, right? And then say that this imaginary person isn't going to outdo me. Now, you have to have enough mental stability to handle this without going into a depressive state, right? But if you have the ability to do that, then anytime you feel like you're starting to get complacent within your relationship, jealousy is something that can benefit. And this is the reason why I say that affairs can save marriages. But most people don't know what to do with jealousy. Most people don't know what to do with the concept of betrayal. Because people let things go too far before they do something about it. And then afterwards, they try to fix it through means that aren't going to fix it. Like I always say, communication is overrated. So is jealousy an indicator of love? No, but jealousy is an indicator of being in love. Right? Jealousy is an indicator of being in love. And there's nothing wrong with being in love. But you have to vet an individual and be integrated. Not prematurely integrated, but integrated with an individual. It doesn't benefit you to be in love with a person unless you are, if you're a dominant party, you need to be the peak of their sexual experiences to be in love with them. And they need to be at a place where they desire you on a level to where they are not interested in fucking with other people. And I'm saying this from the perspective of someone who has been in multiple monopoly relationships. Not forced monopoly, but women who felt like, man, I'm getting good dick and I'm getting guidance. If I go fuck with this one guy, he might just give me some good dick. But If a woman hasn't been trained and hasn't gone through that process of learning to separate sex from emotions and prioritize different things, there's a certain effect that comes with sex and emotions mixing, right? Up front, that's not the best idea. But you can get to a place where the sex and emotions mix, and it takes you to a higher level than sex by itself or emotions by itself. So as a man who's been in many monopoly relationships, not forced, but things that I had a conversation with a woman about, and she said, you know what, I only want to deal with you. Because the risk involved with dealing with multiple partners, there's pregnancy risk, there's STD risk, there's different things that come with being with multiple people that sometimes the risk is not worth the reward. And the extra steps that you have to go through to avoid the risks kind of cancel out the whole notion that monogamy isn't natural. Because all that extra shit that you have to learn, all that extra shit that you have to do in order to adequately be polyamorous in a way that is going to benefit you is not natural. You might consider it unlearning, but you got to unlearn shit to be monogamous. You got to unlearn shit to be polyamorous. Either way, there's things you have to learn and unlearn. You have to make a choice about what's going to best benefit you. And when it comes to raising children and having, in this society, having a nuclear home, having a stable environment, monogamy in a marriage is one of the best ways to go about doing that. So the idea that a sufficiently intense love is enough to overcome any practical incompatibilities. Now check this out. This is the importance of a vetting process. Those practical incompatibilities can occur in a variety of ways, but mostly it comes from overstimulation, right? Most of it comes from overstimulation, and most of it comes from not vetting someone. So if you want to be monogamous with a woman, it's important that you hit certain superlatives of her sexual experiences as far as the pleasure she experiences, as far as the domination that she experiences. And this is something that's important. If you don't have that, then certain things will linger in the back of her mind. Another thing is this: when a woman's feminine and submissive with you, she is moldable and she's malleable in her mindset, to where if you have good leadership skills and she doesn't have those leadership skills, then she will start to adopt different aspects of your mindset in a way to where now you are on the same page because you are on your page. It's not impossible, but it takes time, right? A woman can be feminine and submissive with you overnight, but if you do not have the leadership skills to guide her to a place that she hasn't been, and then she likes it when she gets there, then it's not going to work for you, right? But a lot of these incompatibilities that can't be negotiated can be vetted for ahead of time. But a lot of things that people view as incompatibilities come from a lack of respect and a lack of desire within the relationship that make issues that are smaller issues bigger issues, because it's really a symptom of a bigger problem, which is a lack of polarity. The idea that you should meet your partner's every need, and if you don't, you're either inadequate or they're too needy. Now check this out, right? When it comes to relationships, especially within polarity, everybody has needs. Everybody has desires for validation. People don't want to admit it, but men desire validation too, but the validation that men desire is different from the validation that women desire, right? So they're either too needy or you're inadequate. This is where the vetting process comes in. This is where establishing certain things come in. This is where I make certain claims necessary. But what I also say is this: security works on a basis of two things: your ability to self-soothe and your ability to be malleable or what the person needs that you're with, right? It's two things. If you base it all on one of those things, independence, then you're probably never going to be in a relationship with someone that can be truly connected and consistent over an extended period of time, unless everything that you can't outsource is something that's needed. And I'll say this: if you're in a monogamous relationship, then what happens within monogamy? There's certain things that you aren't allowed to outsource, and that main thing is sex. So sexual compatibility is paramount. But you also have to understand that overstimulation leads to duplicity, which is why I say that you have to reach certain peaks of sexual experiences in order to be happily monogamous. But you have to not play with fire, and be emotionally overstimulated, sexually overstimulated by someone else after you're in that particular scenario, or then your needs will begin to grow in a way that will be unbecoming to the dynamic that you're in. So this idea of needs, certain things are things that people need to heal, right? Certain things are things that people need to heal. But when it comes to needs, you should have a capacity to meet certain needs. But if you're the masculine dominant party, you set your standards about meeting those needs, but she has to be secure enough within herself to be feminine and submissive with you and meet those standards, so that when you meet her needs, it's not that something that comes out of her desiring something, right? And that's the reason why she's doing what she's doing, unless it's something that you intrinsically desire to give, right? And also, it doesn't need to be a scenario in which you are meeting her needs because she's in a place of insecurity where, and I'm not saying that's never going to happen. What I'm saying is this: if when she gets emotional, her idea is to play with fire, or her idea of being insecure is to begin to pull away, or her idea is to try to shit test you, then you don't reward bad behavior. And that's what you vet for. You vet for a woman who's feminine and submissive, not a woman who's a brat. So inadequacy, like, there's a difference between being insecure and having insecurities in your relationship. And I think that is something that people need to understand, right? The idea that a sufficiently intense love should cause you to cease to be attracted to anyone else. Just because you're attracted to anyone else doesn't mean you need to act on it. And if you understand the art of sexual transmutation, right? If you understand the art of sexual transmutation, then you can take your attraction to someone else and you can project that feeling onto your partner. You can use that attraction to someone else to give yourself a feeling of jealousy. You can also use that attraction to someone else to help motivate your partner to reach certain standards. If they agree that, you know what, I would like to improve myself, now you've seen something that can help you improve, right? But there's another process called molding preferences. We have a lot more control over what we're attracted to than we think we do. And a big part of this is this, right? Depth has to be greater than novelty. Realized chemistry has to be greater than curiosity. If you cannot curb your curiosity, typically it's because one aspect of it is if you lead with your A-game sex from the jump, from day one, then typically the quality of the sex is going to go down over time. The quality of your sex needs to increase the longer that you know someone, right? So I say start with your C plus to B minus sex game. You learn that woman's body and you build that sexual chemistry as you get closer to one another. So it kind of works on the basis of Brodie scale of sexual attraction, right? Brodie scale of sexual attraction. If there's a 7 level of sexual attraction, then all that emotional shit you're doing is transactional for sex, right? On an 8 level, she don't even want your emotion. She just wants the dick, right? But at least the dick is an equivalent exchange to her pussy. But at a 9 level, she actively desires you. So things that would typically not be seen as masculine or as dominant are things that will still trigger a sexual reaction. They will still trigger desire. And when realized chemistry becomes greater than curiosity and depth becomes greater than novelty, then the idea of dealing with multiple people is something that is not going to be as exciting, right? When you take your curiosity and you shift that from the newness of a new person, to what am I going to do with this person I have next, then a lot of that shit goes away, right? You have to set sexual goals every year. Every year or every quarter, you need to set sexual goals, and those sexual goals never stop for the rest of your life, right? Instead of setting your sexual goals on how many people you can be with, how many different types of people you can be with that can overstimulate you with variety, you can experience variety with your partner in several ways. The idea that commitment is synonymous with exclusivity. I agree with this one. You know, it's true. You know, and this is what I'll say, right? You can be committed to a person without being exclusive. I've listened. I'm gonna say something real. There's been women I dealt with that I was more committed to them, although they were exclusive to me. That's true. You know, that's something that can occur. You know, like I said, I've been in monopoly relationships. These are things that can occur. So what I will say on that matter right there is this: like, commitment is not synonymous with, you know, exclusivity. Now, it is a level of it, right? It's not synonymous, but it's one of those things to where it's kind of like a Venn diagram. For a lot of people, it is, but it's not. So when it comes to commitment being synonymous with exclusivity, what I'll say is this: it really depends on certain factors, certain things that go along with your relationship. If you are satisfied with your partner sexually, you're satisfied with your partner emotionally, you're satisfied with your partner as far as your attraction to them, you're satisfied with your partner in a variety of ways that can be vetted for, that can be established, and they aren't something that's static, they're dynamic, then in those particular instances, if you are in a monogamous relationship and that is what your understanding is, then yes, your commitment to them is going to be predicated somewhat on your exclusivity. The idea that marriage and children are the only valid teleological justifications for being committed to a relationship. I agree. It's not. A lot of people who are polyamorous and a lot of people who just spin plates, they feel an obligation towards it without seeing the things that come out of it, right? You can be committed to a relationship for a variety of reasons, and marriage and children aren't the only ones. But guess what? Monogamy, or at least being in a marriage, in a relationship, is one of the best foundations for raising children. Most people want to raise children. Most people want to have children. And within that structure, you have a nuclear home, and that is one of the best environments to raise children in, without having to live a double life in front of them. The idea that your insecurities are always your partner's responsibility to tiptoe around and never your responsibility to work on. I agree with that, right? But something I will say is this, and this is one thing that a lot of polyamorous people may not understand, right? One thing a lot of polyamorous people won't understand is this: there's a difference between insecurities in your relationships and insecurities in your partner. Like they say that sometimes there's something called psychological reactance, where you're in a position where you feel like being committed to something, being accountable to something, feeling like that takes away from your freedom when that isn't the case. Because you can have freedom to enjoy yourself within a dynamic. It's just like a job. If you have a career, you have a passion that you love to do, and that's something that you're wrapped up in, you're not really going to be on some shit. Like, if you have different ways of expressing what you're doing, you can do what you're doing in a variety of ways to where you may not want another job because you're so focused on the one that you have. But when it comes to insecurities, people often use insecurities to gaslight people about things when there are real insecurities within their relationship that someone is just more aware of than the other person. And they seek to dismiss that by saying, no, you just work on that, when really that's something that affects things. So one thing I talk about is the daddy versus father effect. One thing I talk about is the non-stick principle, right? Sometimes these insecurities are things that need to be worked on, but sometimes these are things that need to be corrected within the dynamic before you go further. That's something that I definitely believe in, is that insecurities aren't always something that a person has within themselves. Sometimes a person is just in tune with the relationship and understands that there are weak spots in the relationship. The idea that your value to a partner is directly proportional to the amount of time and energy they spend on you, and it is in zero-sum competition with everything else they value in life. Hold up. Now, what I'll say about this is this. That's true. That's true. But what I'll say is this as well, right? People make time for things that they value. People make time for things that they enjoy, right? People often gaslight others, saying that they're not free, that they don't have time, when really they just don't want to make time. And when you first meet someone, see, my state of mind when it comes to dealing with relationships is this: I'm not leading with monogamy, right? But it is a place that you can get to naturally throughout your process, throughout your program. You can reach that place of monogamy. So when it comes to that competition, I'll say this: when you are masculine submissive, you're often splitting up your desire for validation across multiple sources. When you split up your desire for approval across multiple sources, then it leads to a place of confusion. And then most of the time, your partner is going to be the person who is getting the short end of the stick of your time, attention, and energy. Right? That's what happens when you're masculine submissive, especially when you're socially programmed. So you're worried about what society says. You're worried about what your friends say. You're worried about what people on the internet say. You're worried about what religion says. You're worried about this. You're worried about that. You're worried about this. You're worried about that. And then you just take a small amount of consideration for what your partner actually wants or thinks. And the little bit of consideration you take towards that makes it feel like what they want is too much and you can't handle it. And it feels like pressure. It feels like anxiety. And then from that place, now you're in a position where now you're frustrated. Now you feel torn. Like I said about security, it works like this. You know, when you're monogamous or when you have a primary partner, right, especially if your goal is to be feminine and submissive, you need to have a certain level of self-soothing and security within yourself. But then if you are a feminine submissive woman, you're dominant, right? Your man is the one who, after your self-soothing and being secure within yourself, most of that desire for validation needs to go to your leader. Because your leader is someone who you trust enough to know what to do with that desire for validation. Because that desire for validation is something that can be used to motivate you to become a better person. Right? And a man or a masculine dominant party is going to be feminine and submissive towards their goals, towards their passion, towards their God, towards their principles, right? Towards their vision. And that's just something that it goes. It's par for the course. It's par for the course. The idea that being of value to your partner should always make up a large chunk of how you value yourself. Now, this is something I definitely agree with, right? I definitely agree with it. Why? Because you're never going to escape the desire for validation in life, especially for a woman. You're never going to escape desiring the attention of men, desiring to be seen, desiring to feel desirable. And if you desire this from multiple sources, you're going to be making a lot of minor changes. You're going to be back and forth all the time, swaying back and forth, trying to decide who it is you're going to try to impress. Or you're going to try to impress yourself and only yourself in a way that's not going to make you attractive to anybody who values themselves and has standards. Right? Like I say, it's a combination of security within yourself, and then the rest, and most of that validation should go to your partner. Now, if you have a career that, you know, you have people that you work for, people that you work with, and it's important that they approve what you do, you know, I get that, right? But at the same time, it's forsake all others. When you're using Darth Brodie's rule of 2, or when you understand these different aspects of it, these are things that are important. So I'm going to take a step off real quick from that post. And when I take a step off from that post, I'm going to break things down on a different level, right? And on this different level is this. There's different things that are viewed as toxic that are necessary, right? And because people view them as toxic, they don't do these things, or they only implement these things in times where it's conflict, and then they don't have an opportunity to experience these things in ways that are pleasurable and pleasurable, right? So one, people have this over obsession with the idea of boundaries in this day and age. There are not many things that feel better than having a relationship where you trust the person enough to not be constantly trying to put up boundaries with them because you trust them. There are benefits that come with having needs, having a partner you can depend on, having a partner you can trust in a way to where even if you're having a weak moment, they can be there for you and you trust that they will be there for you, right? There are different things that come with things that people consider toxic that are very beneficial towards relationships and very beneficial towards life. In life, there are needs. Right? If people say that, oh, you just only be somewhere as long as you want to be, yes, that's true. But there are things that you can do mentally. There are processes that you can go through mentally in order to enjoy being where you're at instead of constantly assessing whether that's where you want to be. Right? Being feminine is about knowing who you want, not knowing what you want. Being masculine is about knowing what you want, not who you want. When you're masculine and dominant, you go after what you want, right? You set your standard. And when you go after what you want, a person who wants you is going to be a person who's going to follow the direction that you're going in. And when you're masculine and dominant, you set expectations. You also make sure that your plan, your program is something that benefits the person who's under you, right? That's being a good leader. Most people haven't experienced good leadership skills. Most people haven't experienced it, right? Another thing is the idea of gaslighting and invalidating emotions. When a woman's feminine and submissive with you, she may have certain beliefs that are very pervasive, that are very toxic, very hurtful to herself, but she clings to them because of societal social narratives, right? And a lot of these societal social narratives come from a perspective of people who are in positions of power, who are purposefully seeking to denigrate the state of relationships, who are purposefully seeking to denigrate the power of a sexual relationship between a man and a woman, right? There are people who are purposefully seeking to sabotage relationships for economic reasons, for social reasons, for reasons of social power. And a lot of this comes into play through the mindset of a victim mentality. And through this victim mentality, a lot of people have this inherent fear of dominance, this inherent fear of losing control. But the truth is this: there is no more pleasurable experience than losing control. It's like the difference between somebody facilitating your orgasm versus somebody forcing you to orgasm, forced orgasms. Those are going to be more powerful than orgasms you give yourself. These are things that are important to understand. Like mansplaining. Oftentimes, there's a lot of very emotionally driven mentalities where people try to hold people accountable to how other people feel. And that is not a smart thing to do. And that's what a lot of cancel culture is about. And that's what a lot of different cultures is about. And these are things that impede on people's ability to have free speech, to say what they want, to say what they feel, say what they think, and have wider, more open, more introspective, and more progressive conversations that lead to social change. And a lot of the social issues and narratives that people share about things, they haven't been tried and true and tested enough for an extended period of time to be able to say that these things are going to be beneficial over the long term. Like birth control hasn't even been around since the 1960s, right? So what we need to understand is that when it comes to monogamy, when it comes to these ideas about relationships in this day and age, there's ways to go about monogamy. It's just that most people did it from a perspective of things that they weren't going to get out of it, because they didn't know how to get those things. They didn't know how to establish those things. They were more so concerned with what they were going to get out of it, not what they were going to put into it. More concerned with two people trying to get their way separately and then trying to compromise, instead of two people getting on the same page, getting on the same program and saying, okay, this is the direction we're going in. These are the things that we're going to do in order to fight life instead of fight each other. Right? Darth Brodie's rule of two. Because the dark side is typically predicated on power, typically predicated on control. But the truth is this: certain aspects of power and control aren't inherently wrong. They aren't inherently evil. It's just that people view it as evil because people fear losing control. Passion isn't something that's wrong, right? Passion is something that's good. But can you have passion that you have the ability to sustain? Do you have passion that you have the ability to reignite? Or do you need to say no passion at all? Or are you going to just try to reignite passion with every new person that you come across and then move on as soon as it burns out, and then find somebody who you can, just live with and tolerate, and someone who you love, I guess, right? Not being in love with them, none of that shit, and just say, okay, well, I can tolerate this situation, so I'm just going to keep getting my thrills with the next person, with the next person, with the next person, with the next person, while you have one person who you sit up on the shelf, who you don't even meet their sexual needs, you don't make them feel desired, they don't desire you, you're just there for business reasons, right? Or you're just there for social reasons. These are some things to think about. So this is Darth Brodie's Rule of Two. Exposing toxic monogamy culture. I'm out.